Good evening. Thank you for coming tonight. I'll stand up so you can see me. I'm Jean Curtis. I'm the chair of the County Commission this year, and with me are Bill Carey and Michelle Lanquist, the other two commissioners. Tonight's meeting is really just an opportunity for the commissioners to hear from the communities, because it isn't just Missoula that we're talking about, it's all of our little communities in the county, about a citizen proposal to fund a city and county park and trail bond. The Friends of Missoula Parks and 112 other organizations, businesses, and individuals asked us to consider placing a bond measure on the November 2014 ballot for that purpose. So tonight you'll have the opportunity to hear from Dr. Michael Caldwell and Mr. John O'Connor, a short presentation about their proposal and the work, kind of the footwork that they've laid to get to this point. After receiving their comments, we'd like to hear from you. Since it's obviously important to many of you, we want to hear all your comments, so let's try to keep them short. We don't usually say you only get 3 minutes, but maybe 4 or 5. No, I mean, when you have this many people, it's too nice a night for us to stay in here all night, right? And just give other people a chance to come forward. And if somebody already said something that you like, you can just say you like that too. So with us tonight, we also have our County Parks and Trails Manager, Lisa Moisey, and Donna Gockler, the city's Parks and Recreation Director. And so tonight, we won't be answering specific questions that you may have, but staff will be writing them down so that we can go forward. After reviewing testimony and researching the question, because there's a little bit more information to come forward for the commissioners to decide whether it makes sense to put it on the ballot. Things like, you know, what's it going to cost? Passing a bond is one thing, but you have continuing expenses, so we'll need to know that. So we've set a tentative date for June 15th to do the public hearing. Tonight's meeting is a public meeting, which is different than a hearing in state law. So at this time, I'll have Mr. O'Connor and Mr. Caldwell speak, and then you can just line up at the mic. We ask you to come to the mic. It is being taped, so whoever wants to go first.
Jane, it's the 25th, I'm told.
Oh, what'd I say?
15th.
And
25th.
state their name for the record.
June 25th would be the next meeting.
You may have to flip that.
Yeah, I don't think that's on yet, but then you can just leave it on.
I'm a little technically challenged. There we go.
There you go.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, County Commissioners, for having this meeting and allow us to give you this presentation. My name is
Just go ahead and hold it too if you want.
He wasn't kidding.
Starting
He was
out well.
technically challenged. Okay.
Yeah, my name is
Take
John
one.
O'Connor. I'm here on behalf of the Friends of Fort Missoula Regional Park with Dr. Michael Caldwell, our other committee members, and many supporters in the room. Before I start my presentation, I just want to tell you I've been working on the Fort Missoula Regional Park project now for about 9 years. And we've been working on this particular proposal for quite some time. I think I could talk about it in my sleep. And we've done 7, 8 presentations now. And for some reason tonight I'm nervous. So I hope I don't stutter and stumble, but if I do, please forgive me. My 7-year-old tried to fire me up with a YouTube video called Here Comes the Hot Stepper. So the song's in my head, but so far I don't feel like a hot stepper. With that, our presentation goals are pretty simple. We would like to share information with you regarding our proposal for the countywide bond to fund important investments in our shared community values of quality of life, health and wellness, economic opportunity, and more. We also want to share information on the 3 components of our proposal and how we sort of came to identify them. And we'd like to ask the commissioners to do due diligence and consider placing this proposal on the ballot so the citizens can express their wishes. For almost 2 decades now, the city and county have worked to develop the Fort Missoula Regional Park project, and you can see drawings of it over here in the corner. In addition to that, the County Parks and Trails Advisory Board has been looking for ways to sort of plan and develop a more comprehensive trails program to augment about 45 miles of paved and shared surface trails in the county. And recently, the city of Missoula approved what's called a Parks Asset Management Plan, and if you're in government, you call that a PAM, that quantifies aging playgrounds, among other things. So for the past year or so, a pretty diverse group of volunteer citizens has conducted extensive interviews and workshops of leaders and stakeholders in our community. Over 50 interviews with individual community leaders, 7 workshops. We've worked with city and county staff to assess needs in parks and trails, and we've also conducted a county-wide public opinion poll that we feel further solidifies the results of the 2010 poll that the county conducted. Our proposal is very straightforward. We would like to create a new county trails program that will leverage funds with other partners to continue the rich history in the county of providing opportunities for access to public lands and connecting communities. We feel the county does that very well in leveraging dollars. We'd like to seed that with a new program to help that grow. We think it's really important to address the aging infrastructure and update at least 10 playgrounds in Missoula itself to increase safety, access, and play opportunities. And we also want to finally fully fund the development of both the county and city portions of Fort Missoula Regional Park, which we think will create a destination for sports, tourism, culture, history, and wellness. Now, the cost of our proposal is equal to about 1 specialty coffee drink per household per month. About $3 a month, $36 a year on the average house. For that, the economic, wellness, quality of life, and place benefits, we believe far exceeds the price of that cup of coffee. We've got some figures here and some information, and you'll see if you can read that up at the top. We've culled this from the October 2010 County Parks and Trails Survey and the November 2013 Friends of Fort Missoula Regional Park Survey. Residents in Missoula County use and love their parks and trails. Over and again, you can ask people what they love, and they will tell you parks and trails. We love our trails. We love getting outside. We love walking after work. Nearly 75% of all households bike, hike, or cross-country ski, and 80% of households support more trails of all kinds. We know that visitation to local parks is higher than the national average, and we know that young families, especially with kids 10 and under, visit the parks more frequently, and that represents about 88% of households. Quite conveniently for our proposal, Fort Missoula Regional Park is currently visited by 61% of county and city residents. And we also know that trails bring tourists to our communities, and that trails users spend more than average visitors. The bike tourists like to go to breweries. We also know that parks and trails provide fitness and fun. Active people are leaner, they're healthier, they're less likely to become overweight. We'd like to address the childhood obesity problem that's developing in our country. We know that people who are active are more self-confident, they have better social skills, they do better in school as kids, and they provide a healthy workforce. And active communities attract quality businesses. The first component of our proposal is a county trails program. We feel that by establishing this program, it will allow the county to create and maintain new public trails and recreation opportunities, to create trail links between communities, create regional, state, tribal, or federal trail partnerships where appropriate, and establish a maintenance program to serve current and future trail infrastructure. The second component is Fort Missoula Regional Park. As I said, the master site plans for both the city and county side are up here on the right-hand side. We believe that Fort Missoula Regional Park could basically become our central park, our Golden Gate Park. And we believe that in all seriousness. We think that it could be a legacy for our community for decades to come. We think it'll be a destination for residents and for tourists. We think it'll add to our heritage and celebrate everything that is Fort Missoula. And we think it's a reflection of our values and our vitality as a community. I'm not going to spend much time on this. We've got this master site plan up here, but you can see how pretty it is. There were a lot of people who spent an awful lot of hours, and a lot of years, I should say, coming up with this. I wanted to put this in merely for the fact that there's a red line in it, and that red line is the Lolo to Missoula Trail that's been approved with the Tiger Grant. And you can see there's a nice little dotted line that we think is a beautiful future connection to Fort Missoula Regional Park. Fort Missoula's rich history is reflected in our plan. The plan really honors the CCC era, which is extremely important to the fort and to our community. You can see that there's a lot of stone and wood and open structures. There'll be an Iron Mike statue out there. And as I said, it's a legacy in the making, something that the Department of Interior started that they hope to be an enormously successful program was called the America's Great Outdoors Project. They identified 2 projects in each state and 1 in the District of Columbia that they felt above all others offered outdoor recreation opportunities and honored outdoor recreation. Fort Missoula Regional Park was one of the 2 for the state of Montana. The other was the Crown of the Continent. We think that's pretty good company. Some other information, this has been a community goal since 1995. And the 1995 Open Space Plan and Bond, the city acquired the land in 1998 and promised to address recreation needs in the greater area at that time. This is 2014. It's gone through extensive public process, some of which is required because it was a former military installation. There was cultural and historical information that had to be gathered and analyzed, and that took years. But in 2002, there was a conceptual master plan that was developed. In 2008, a real master park plan was adopted by City Council for the city side, and then in 2012, the county commissioners adopted the county side master plan detail. Fort Missoula Regional Park will offer an economic boost to our community, and not just Missoula. We think a regional park attracts visitors from entire Northern Rockies area. It will allow our teams and their families to stay home and play or play closer to home. And it will create new jobs in accommodations in hotels and food services and restaurants and for operations and maintenance of the facilities. The plan calls for the development of 11 multi-use fields, 10 of which will be natural turf, and the 11th one will be a all-weather turf with lights, allowing us to play a myriad of sports on those fields. The reason we need those fields, if you look at this graph, this data is dated, but nothing has changed in Missoula or Missoula Valley. In the green, you will see the number of fields, multi-use fields that communities have. And in the red, you'll see the recommended number of fields per capita that communities should have. On the far right, the Missoula and Missoula Valley are the 2 in our area that are extremely lacking. The park will also, on the county side, have a beautiful new softball venue, which will make our softball folks happy, very happy. It's gorgeous, with a center concession area, allowing us to create revenue in the park. The third component is our Missoula playgrounds. I just wanted to bring up that yesterday, the Parks and Conservation Committee of the Missoula City Council unanimously voted in favor of a resolution to support this proposal and to set a public hearing for the City Council to vote on that resolution. As I mentioned earlier, the City Council recently approved a park asset management plan, which, among other things, ranks playground infrastructure. So they've already identified the oldest playgrounds, the ones at most risk, where the equipment like this pictured here is still wooden structures from the 1980s and early 90s, doesn't meet necessarily code. Fall zones might not be right. They already have playgrounds identified. And the playgrounds component will allow Missoula Parks and Recreation to replace or update at least 10 playgrounds. We're very excited about that. We know that playgrounds are a place where kids grow. And independent research has concluded a long time ago that playgrounds and free play is some of the most important kind of play that kids can have outside. And the spontaneous nature of it is just really beneficial for kids in that type of play. So our proposal is about kids, community, and economic vitality. And I wanted to thank you again for allowing me the opportunity to mention that. My contact information is up there. I made it purposely small, so nobody will call me. No, but you can call me anytime. We also have a website that you can go to. And now I'll ask Mike Caldwell to come up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connor.
Well, thank you again. Good to see you again, and I appreciate being able to come here. It's an exciting moment, really. I've been involved with this committee for about 3 years. It's not my normal work. It's usually taking care of patients, so it's really been interesting to work with all these people. And one of the questions you probably ought to ask is, why him? Why am I here? So many people have put years of work into the parks in our city and our county, and I've been involved for such a short period of time. But I have a real passion for this with that work, and it really comes from being like everybody else, which is we enjoy our parks, we raise children, and through all stages of life, because I take care of patients from age 18 to 100, we all use parks in different ways. Maybe it's a run, maybe it's watching your kid, maybe it's watching your grandkid. So that's why I'm here, and you know, I moved here 18 years ago. That was 1996. And I've had 3 girls now. One has finished her soccer career this year because she's a senior. And I've traveled around the state and gone to great parks and have experienced what I really wanted to have in Missoula. So that's why I got involved. But it's become more of a bigger issue than playfields. Yeah. It's been more of an issue than playfields. It's about trails, it's about playgrounds, and it's about growing our community. So I really feel like investment in parks and trails in Missoula is it's right for our quality of life. I think it's right for our business, our economics, and you saw all the details that John presented that we've talked about. It includes picnicking and a large community pavilion and a dog park and historical interpretive sites and trails and open space and opportunities for young people and middle-aged and seniors. And I think because of that, we can host tournaments that are going to be fantastic. And that certainly is going to help businesses in terms of hotels and restaurants, our convenience and fuel. And so, you know, we're here tonight to present this idea. We hope that you think of it as highly as we do, and we're excited about it. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Powell.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we just ask that you just line up and tell us why you want us to consider putting it, having the public hearing is the next step to put it on the ballot.
You might state your name for the record, and if you're representing an organization, that too.
Yep, good idea.
Hi, my name is Steve Dickamidis, and for everybody here that doesn't know me, a lot of people know me by Deco, and I am the Montana District 2 ASA Commissioner for our district for this part of western Montana. I oversee everything that goes on with ASA softball in our district, from JO all the way to adults. Now, I've been involved with softball in this town since around 1982. I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, I firmly believe in what this represents, and I've heard a lot already about, you know, how it will expand tourism and everything, and I firmly believe that also, and I'm going to give you a case in point. Missoula is hosting the 2014 JO State Fast Pitch Tournament. I anticipate anywhere between 80 and 100 teams coming in for that weekend. Now, you're looking at anywhere between 2,000 to 4,000 people, because when JO plays a tournament, everybody packs up and goes, and that is no lie. And just the revenue that's going to come in from that, I mean, that's something we need to look at. And not only that, when you go out of town and you play at a facility and you like that facility, you're more apt to go play in another tournament at that facility because it's a good facility. Now, and that's what's kind of faulted for us. I mean, we've lost a little bit of the enthusiasm for people coming in because our facilities aren't that good. And I believe this facility will turn that around. And it's just something I really, really believe in. And I know everybody that has been involved, as long as I have with softball, will tell you the same thing. There is nothing but good that can come from this. And I hope that you will see that and be on board with us on that. And thank you very much.
Thanks, Deco.
Thank you for this opportunity, and good evening. My name is Lee Bowman. I live in Sea Lake, and I'm very pleased to be here tonight. I'm representing Sea Lake Rocks. Prior to graduating to Montana, I lived in Tri-Cities, Washington for 11 years. While I was there, I was involved with both the Visitor and Convention Bureau and the Chamber of Commerce. As a matter of fact, I was the chair of the Tri-City Regional Chamber of Commerce for quite some time. Tri-Cities back then needed to diversify its economy. We identified expanding soccer fields and softball fields as our top opportunity. We enhanced our facilities as well as our marketing plans to sell those facilities. Before this process began, tourism was 5% of it was the fifth largest industry in Tri-Cities. After the project was complete, and about 5 years after using the project, the tourism industry in Tri-Cities, Washington had grown from the fifth largest industry to the third largest industry in Tri-Cities. Turns out that when you have a tournament, of course, the players show up, the fans show up, the families show up, and guess what? They all spend money. Missoula has some significant competitive advantages over Tri-Cities, Washington. Trees, for example. So as well as this worked in Tri-Cities, I expect it to be even more successful in Missoula. One quick note on a trail. Living in Sea Lake, every day I'm made aware of the opportunity for a bike route connecting Missoula and Sea Lake. The greatest need is between Clearwater Junction and Sea Lake. And if we could all just look in our crystal balls for just a second and visualize that trail someday extending from Missoula to Glacier National Park, we'd be talking major league social and economic advantages. Thank you.
Thanks, Lee.
Good evening. My name is Ann Rupp-Calvis. I come with 3 hats tonight. First, a very deep family connection to the Historical Museum at Fort Missoula. Secondly, a member of the County Parks and Trails Advisory Board. I'm speaking just for myself, not for the board. And thirdly, as a target ranger. Our community is adjacent to Fort Missoula. So the historical aspect first. Both the city and county plans for Fort Missoula showed a great deal of appreciation for and acknowledging the value of the historical campus at the fort. I appreciate that. I understand that this money, if raised, would allow for increased interpretive language about the historical aspects within the fort. I applaud that. As far as the trails, 80% of people want more trails. The thing that I'm excited about with this money is the possibility of establishing a maintenance fund for the county trail system. That's the really big thing for trails for me. Because as you said, Gene, you can pass a bond issue, but you need money to keep things going. This would apparently allow that. Thirdly, as a target ranger, which, by the way, in case some people don't know, it's called target range because the soldiers at Fort Missoula used to target practice at McCauley Butte, hence the target range. A House district candidate who recently canvassed our area was looking at demographics and found out that, like Montana, target range is aging. The bike paths on South Avenue and Clements are used all the time, and it's a lot of older people walking or riding their bikes and kids going to and from schools. So I'm thinking if we could enhance the trail system within Fort Missoula, we'd have a really nice line from 3rd and Clements all the way down South Avenue into the park, all around the park, And then maybe we could stay on our bikes and stay off the treadmill at Community Hospital. So please consider. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ann.
Good evening. My name is Barb Nealon. I am the director of Destination Missoula, which is our Convention and Visitors Bureau here in Missoula, and also our Tourism Business Improvement District. And there are so many reasons that this project is so important to this community, but what I want to speak to you about is the economic impact of this project. As we stand right now, tourism for Missoula is a $300 million a year business. It brings money into our economy that is split probably 7 different times and reaches into every single person's pocket. It's an extremely important industry. And we are trying to stay competitive. And so in 2010, as you know, we created what's called the Tourism Business Improvement District. This money was designated to help us market this city, to find the niches that we could really make a difference in. In doing the research for this money and for these funds, we found that one of the places that would have the most impact most immediately on Missoula was sports travel. It is a $240 billion a year business. It is gigantic. It has the ability to make a difference immediately, whereas meetings and conventions and groups have a tendency to be 3 to 5 years out. It's something that the travelers who do travel for sports are highly educated. They have an income of generally around $75,000 for a household income. They like to take advantage of the other infrastructure that's in a community. And so they will eat out. They will stay in your hotels and your restaurants and do the entertainment and the nightlife, which is essential here. So what I would like to do for just a second is we're missing out on a lot of business, basically is what I'm saying. And there's a lot of competition within the state. Even Bozeman is looking at making major changes to their sports facilities. And so we need to stay competitive, and this is one way for us to be able to do that. I would like to, just for a second, have my sales director, Mary Holmes, come up and give you just an idea of what she has found out on the road at the conferences for sports and what we are missing out on.
Thank you, Barb.
Thank you. Once again, my name is Mary Holmes, and I'm here representing the Tourism Business Improvement District. And just a few numbers to throw out there to the group. I've attended 3 major sports-focused trade shows over the last 18 months. And through those 3 shows, I have been connected with 237 sports event owners. And out of that number, 114 of them, Missoula can't even accommodate right now because they require sports complex space that has at least 6 softball fields and or multi-use fields. And I wanted to pull one of those specifically that really had a strong interest in coming to Western Montana and is struggling because they can't find a facility to accommodate them. I actually pulled their statistics and did an economic impact report on this specific group. It's the International Senior Softball Association, and they host 20 tournaments annually in the United States that average 42 teams. That's a very conservative sized tournament. So looking at that, a tournament of that size, they would have about 550 athletes coming in, and it would generate over 1,500 room nights for 2 nights. It would support 394 local jobs just for being here for those 2 nights, and it would have a direct sales impact of over $700,000 for a 2-day tournament. Another number that I looked at is today I went onto the National Association of Sports Commissions website, and they release requests for proposals for national tournaments that are seeking locations. As of today, they have 9 that Missoula can't accommodate because of the limited amount of space. And just to give you an idea of what we're looking at, 2 of them I pulled information on. It's a youth lacrosse tournament that brings 4,000 athletes for 2 nights. That's not including any spectators or parents or family or friends that are coming along with them. Another one is a youth soccer tournament that brings 2,000 athletes for 4 nights. So my point with this is there's a lot of opportunity out there, but we can't take advantage of that opportunity until we have the facilities to really support and start bringing these types of pieces of business in. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
I'm Bert Lunder from Missoula. I'm here representing the Grant Creek Trails Association. The association hopes that you will give Missoula's voters the chance to approve this great project. We just signed a check for $180,000 to the city of Missoula so that they can begin construction of the 2 miles of Grant Creek Trail in the city beginning July 7th. It'll be finished by November 14th, weather permitting. And we're really looking forward to using that trail. It took us 8 years. It also took us a federal transportation bill that's now behind us. So the city of Missoula was able to set aside money, and when our turn came, we were able to use that money, leveraged with money we raised ourselves, state grants, other local grants, to get this trail built. That source of money is no longer there. Now, every fund that you're going to look for is going to be competitive in the statewide. There's still money out there, but I can tell you it's possible to write grants and not get the money if you're not competitive. One of the ways to be competitive is to have a local source of money for trails that will be matched with these grants. Folks who don't have a local source that they can count on aren't going to be as competitive in the present grant environment. So we're thinking that this is going to be a really important if we want to continue developing Missoula's fabulous trails. Thank you.
Thank you, Bert.
Hi, my name's Martha Newell. I've been playing soccer on the fields of Missoula for over 30 years. I'm really excited that this might happen while I'm still playing soccer, but you're going to have to keep moving here. These fields are, they're doing the best they can, but they are so overused, it's crazy. I'm also a soccer parent, and I have traveled all over hell and back to every nice facility in Montana. And, it's been a mystery to me why we haven't had one here. So I'm really excited about the Fort Missoula piece, the trails. I'm a bicyclist. I would love to have a bike trail to Sealy Lake. I would totally use it. I already use your county trails now on my bike. I'm excited about the city park part. I just think it's a great thing, and I really hope that you will support it. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Ruby Kazemi, and I'm here to voice my support as a youth soccer player here in Missoula. I'm really excited about this proposal because I've been playing soccer for the past 15 years, and I've never gotten to play in a tournament here in Missoula. I've also traveled all over Montana and played in almost every other big city except for here. Another issue that I've seen is that it's really hard for us to find fields to play on because there's so many teams competing for the field space. And so we often end up at fields that are not actually soccer fields and that have a lot of holes. And so I'm really excited about this proposal, and yeah.
Thanks, Ruby.
Commissioners, thanks for having us this evening. I'm Jeff Fee. I'm here representing Providence Health and Services here in western Montana along with St. Pat's in Missoula. And I'm here to voice our support on a couple of fronts. We are really, truly blessed here in Missoula, Montana to have the type of healthcare facilities. We really are a healthcare hub for western Montana. And you and I have talked many times about the problems in healthcare. We do a really good job taking care of sick people. We don't do such a good job of keeping our communities healthy and well. And one of the things about Missoula that is fantastic is the culture of wellness and activity. And this really does provide an opportunity for our community to enhance the culture around activity and wellness. Not to mention the fact that this type of facility continues to enhance the attractiveness of our community, and it continues to enhance our ability to attract really high-end, top-quality healthcare professionals like we currently have. So we're very much supportive of it, and I would be remiss to note that certainly, Commissioner Curtis, you know my disposition around economic development. And certainly, this is a low-brainer when it comes to economic development tools for our community. So, thank you.
Thanks.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Carey, Commissioner Lenquist, my name is Grant Kier, K-I-E-R. I'm with Five Valleys Land Trust. I'm here on behalf of Five Valleys Land Trust to encourage you to have a formal hearing on this matter and to consider putting this on the 2014 ballot. Like the county, Five Valleys hears overwhelmingly from our members that they would like to see more recreational trails in the community and in our county, both to connect them to the outdoors and to connect our communities to one another. A funded county trails program that's modeled on the hugely successful, I might add, Open Lands program would be vital in expanding those opportunities for the community. As you know, I think quite well, Five Valleys Land Trust started a long time ago as Five Valleys River Parks Association, and I think it's safe to say that Fort Missoula Regional Park would be the granddaddy of all river parks. It's a park with tremendous potential to serve many users in the community, a park that can provide tangible economic benefits, and a park for which planning has been in the works for decades. Combined with the plans that this bond has to improve 10 or more parks in the city, there's really something here for everyone. After 40 years as the River Parks Association and Five Valleys Land Trust, we've come to learn that ours is a community that wisely invests in its future. Like a strategically run private enterprise, we choose to invest on our strengths, we set our community apart from those that surround us in the region, and we establish a competitive edge that attracts and retains outstanding people who enjoy our quality of life. I think a lot of them are here in the room tonight. But this has a positive feedback cycle that I think perpetuates the quality of life in a way that it endures for future generations. I think that means a lot to all of us. So by placing the Parks and Trails bond on the ballot and providing our community with the ample information that needs to make a choice, you empower our citizens to bring their plans to fruition, to exercise their demonstrated wisdom, and to choose how best to further their and our outstanding legacy of parks and trails in Missoula. Thanks.
Thanks, Grant.
Hello, Commissioners. John Lang. I'm the Executive Director of the Missoula Family YMCA. It is our pleasure to be here in support of this referendum as well. And I just want to touch on two areas. First, when we think about health and well-being, there's a lot that we do in the YMCA, but it only serves a certain number of people. The health and well-being that'll be enhanced by these trail systems and by enhancements in the neighborhood parks will be substantial. And I just want to let you know that that's a critical part of our infrastructure. Secondly, I want to talk a little bit about our soccer program. We have been involved out there in the current arrangement for years, and I've got to tell you, our softball players are hitting the ball further because it comes right into our soccer games. We had a woman get hit this year and a 2-year-old who was nearly missed. There are safety concerns currently, and we have 1,000 kids and families that are out there every Sunday, and the current situation, we need to do something to change that. The parks people do a great job scheduling, and the scheduling is a nightmare because of all of the use that we have. When we schedule our swimming pool, we know we've done it right when everybody's angry because we don't give anybody what they want because we don't have enough capacity, and we don't have enough capacity out there. This is going to address that. We're behind this. It's a great plan, and it's time to come. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Good evening. My name is Garrett Leach, and I'm here as a soccer player and youth soccer coach, voicing my support for the Parks and Trails proposal. So I have been a lifelong soccer player here in Missoula, Montana, and recently I've started to get active in the coaching community with youth soccer. And I have had this experience and also seen this experience of youth players and youth teams from Missoula going to other cities, other states even, to play in tournaments, simply because we don't have the capacity here to host youth tournaments. It's sad to see, but unfortunately that is the case, and this will definitely help address that. Just speaking to Kalispell in particular, they have a fantastic youth sports complex up there. Wonderful capacity. Just last weekend they hosted a youth soccer tournament, 3 blind refs, and the director of that tournament estimates that brings in over $1 million for a 3-day tournament in revenue for the city, or in economic dollars for the city, which is a great financial boost. In the future, I would love to see youth teams and in soccer, not only in soccer, but in many other sports as well with this complex, come to Missoula for tournaments. I mean, just look outside. We live in such a great city. There's no reason that we shouldn't have those teams coming here instead of going other places in the state or out of state even. So I'm here voicing my support for the Parks and Trails proposal. It will be a wonderful thing for youth sports in general in the community. And I thank you for your time, and I hope that we'll see that on the ballot in the fall. Thank you.
Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Heidi MacDonald. I'm the Executive Director of Missoula Strikers Soccer. I've been on the park board for 8 years, and I'm also on Friends of Fort Missoula. I'm a mother. I'm a soccer player. I'm a runner. I'm a biker. And I love history. So this is the best for me. I also can say that Ruby and Garrett, these two young people that have spoke in front of you, are our players that have gone through our program since they were 5 years old. And now they're 17 and 18, moving on in the world. And look what we've produced because of the programs that we can do in Missoula. I have about 950 kids playing in our program, just soccer, this spring. We primarily use Playfair Park. 950 kids play on that park at least once a week, if not more. Many of them multiple times a week. That's also, on top of that, we've got Adult League, we have lacrosse. The overuse of those fields is crazy. I'm often caught, and this is no reflection on Parks and Rec because they work so hard to keep these fields up, but I'm often on a weekend carrying sod out or dirt out to fill holes. It's just so we don't sprain an ankle. I have clubs in the state of Montana that refuse to come to Missoula and play games because our fields are so bad. We estimated a few years ago, we did a cost analysis on what one team pays. I know you've heard this already, but this is reality. What one team pays to go to a tournament. We pay at a minimum $10,000 for a whole team to go. This is 3 people in the family, all of the players. This is a minimum. This is one coffee a weekend. And recently I brought 13 teams to Coeur d'Alene. That's weekly that we go to places like that. So, as you can see, I am an advocate of parks. I'm an advocate of fields. So, thank you.
Thank you, Heidi.
I'll make this short. My name is Ruth Havican. I'm an ordinary citizen, and I'm a 3-component kind of gal. My first component is the trails. I'm an avid cyclist. I've spent a lot of money in a lot of states, and I would love to spend more in Missoula, and I'd love to buy a new bicycle. Secondly, I am also with the Pickleball newly formed or forming association here in Missoula. Pickleball is the fastest growing sport in America right now. For those of you that don't know, we can fit 2 pickleball courts in the size of 1 tennis court. Right now, we're using temporary nets, some of which have holes in them. Not, again, a reflection on parks. But there is a real need for permanent courts, which is in the plan for the regional park. I also used to play soccer, but I think I'm past that now. But for my grandchildren, that would truly be wonderful. The third component is playgrounds. I was lucky enough to help fund Hope Playground at LaFrey Park several years ago. I feel so strongly about good, safe playgrounds for children. It keeps them off the street, it keeps them happy, it keeps them exercise, health, obesity problems. I mean, you can't have enough playgrounds. I as a single mother, have such great memories of taking my daughter to the playgrounds of Missoula. And it really makes a difference in a kid's life. And so I appreciate you all considering this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Thanks.
I am going to be nervous because I'm one of the people that is encouraging you to take a moment to kick back and look at all the options, what's going on. I wrote this all out. Hopefully the Missoulian will publish it because I wrote it in a flowchart methodology. I've lost my public speaking ability, so I know I'm going to be babbling from point to point. My involvement in the city is I'm on the board of directors of Larchmont Golf Course. I'm a member of Missoula County School Public Safety Advisory Committee, the School Use Facility Committee, Let's Move Physical Activity Committee. I've got a 10-year-old and 13-year-old son. I've been a past and future volunteer coach for the YMCA and Parks and Rec, also involved with pay-to-play sports. Everything about economic development's been preached tonight, I 100% agree. But doesn't that tell you who's utilizing these facilities? $10,000 for one weekend is what one team spends to go. Occasional scholarship, yes. Who are we servicing with state-of-the-art fields? Playing fields are a necessity. Playgrounds are a necessity. We need to upgrade our facilities and availability. Do we need a $3 million state-of-the-art soccer field that only, in my opinion, not anecdotal, that if you can't afford the pay-to-play throughout your life, the odds of you ever utilizing that field is very, very minimal. My proposal is hold off and think like the big picture should be thought as. I don't care if it's the city money, the county money, the library money, the fairground money, the museum money. We as a community should get the list of our wish list like the regents do. They take all the campus's wish lists, prioritize them, and when funding available, the top priority gets funded like Missoula College. Right now, we have this piecemeal approach where you have a huge incentive to fight for your piece of the pie and get there before the other person requests money. I look at funding from the taxpayers as requirements, necessities, and amenities. Requirements are if you build a new building, we have to meet the law of the ADA. The county jail, the women's playing field. No option, we must spend that. Police, sheriff, roads, necessities. Amenities, Larchmont, neighborhood parks, Spice, Montana, Kearns, etc. If we have unlimited money, I'm 100% support of this. Governor Bullock this week is encouraging, I don't know if it's mandatory or voluntary, pre-K education. Our schools have no facilities for pre-K education. We have no staffing funded for pre-K education. I'm on the school facilities committee, the safety committee. The bond that Missoula City Schools is putting on to improve the outdated school buildings, increase security, update technology. Those are two huge possible expenses. The library's looking at the Bon Marché, the fairground improvements, the water company. We can all list them on, but I don't understand as a community why we won't have the priorities, because in theory, we should be saying not just Fort Missoula or nothing, it should be options. I jokingly just sent back in my tree survey for Missoula Urban Parks. They asked me, do I like trees? I mean, if anyone answered I don't like trees to support funding the trees, if they would ask me, do I support more trees or fixing potholes? That's a legitimate question. Without an alternative to spend this $42 million, is it a fair proposal? Because it will pass if you put it on the ballot. It'll be marketed as great for all of Missoula. And my point of view is it's an amenity, two types of amenities, free for all. The park component, the trail component, free, everybody using it. Larchmont, I call it a cost-limiting amenity. Golf is an expensive sport. I would not be here supporting a new golf course. If you do an investigation and the end users of Fort Missoula, the high-end features, part of the features are spectacular. If only the high-end features are being utilized by a select economic group of Missoula, we pride ourselves in affordable housing. We can't get our kids to get involved with affordable activities. Lowell School Physical Activity Committee, they can't get their kids to join the Y-Ball because of time and location problems. They need transportation. They're probably not here. They're probably working their second job right now at night. So in this proposal you will read, I encourage you to look at a different source, a different possible use of some of this money. Why did Missoula County Schools put the Lowell Health Center on the Lowell campus? Convenience. Convenience to the families, and obviously the use is going to take place because it's right there in their neighborhood. The statistics I've provided in here that you can read later, team athletics have been declining the last 5 years. Soccer, softball, everything is coming down, basketball, etc. The Missoulian just reprinted the Great Falls article about the decline in youth activities, which is included in this packet. They ask why. Well, there's a variety of reasons, but the one thing I do know for sure is it is directly related to economic well-being, who is being active. Our I might mispronounce the weight body indexes in our city schools, are directly correlated to the income of the neighborhoods. Economic benefit. If we save that $10,000 from leaving the community every weekend, that's money spent in the community. If we reduce the hassle of driving our kids all over town, driving them all over the region, the lack of stress on families trying to figure out how, just like myself, I have my kid in pay to play because he's going to fall behind without pay to play. I encourage you to put the bond on, fund Parks and Rec, fund the school districts, bring localized activities to the schools. Interesting fitness centers, one of the biggest needs. Maybe Lowell School and all the schools need a fitness center on site. They talk about the lack of fields. How under, whatever the word is, we're short probably half as many gymnasiums as we need. This is all going in one pie, and my belief is we can take care of a different group of people that possibly needs it more than the group that's here by spreading this wealth around. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Conkle.
Good evening, and thank you for listening to us. My name is Gary Hughes. I think this is off or dead.
Nope, it's on. We can hear you.
Okay. I've lived in Missoula County since 1961. I came from the Lake County and moved to Missoula, and I lived in the Door Lane area for the last 51 years. I use my family of 6. We use Wapakea, Bonner Park, Splash. I can't believe all the splash places we go to, the wonderful parks that were developed. We taught our children how to ride their bikes at Fort Missoula on the streets. So I assume this would provide space for children to learn to ride bikes safely. I also was with University of Montana Athletics for 34 years in the sports venue. So I helped the NCAA, the MHSA, Missoula County Public Schools, and a whole variety of other organizations to produce events. So I can tell you how key facilities are for those events. I also sat on the Destination Missoula Sports Commission Selection Committee that would distribute funds to organizations that were asking for funds to bring events to Missoula. And like Barb said, and Mary, those events that were turned away. And I realize this isn't all economics, and I think the majority of this park would be for Missoula people. And I love the county side as well. You load the bike in and you drive to Lolo, and then you can bike to Hamilton and back, and you load the bikes in and you come to Missoula. So all those connections would be wonderful. So I fully support the trail and regional park concept. And I would like to thank Donna and John and all of the people who spent the last 12 years planning this park system. And I think that should certainly be considered. So, and I'm prepared to give up my 12 foo-foo coffees out of 52 weeks a year to pay for this event. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Rick Stevens. I'm on the council in East Missoula. I'm also a sewer board member out there. And we were the only people in the state of Montana to actually volunteer to get sewered. And basically we put a $5.4 million project together. So things can do if you plan and you work hard. Number 2 on this is that I'm a founding member of Tosroff, which is a tour of the Scioto River Valley, which is now the West, Tosroff West is the tour of the Swan. We started with 75, we're now at 110. At a point in the middle, we were running 650 to 750. The reason why we couldn't grow any bigger and why people could come into our ride is too dangerous in comparison. So I was also a member of the Heritage Center out at the fort. We saved a water tower by turning it into a Wi-Fi hotspot. So there's all of these variations you can think of to get things to happen. We had planned a ride from Fort Missoula to Fort Owens. We figured that was a much shorter ride than the Tosroff. One thing we need is a connection between here and Lolo. Okay, so the next thing is I'm a competitive swimmer. All right, I think you guys are looking for low-hanging fruit here. The biggest pool in the country, on our end of the country, is Federal Way, Washington. You ever been to Federal Way? Missoula creams them with everything we can possibly think of. They have AAU, they have, regional zones, etc. They have finals. They have everything in the AAU. You can go on and up through the college. You can do for Division III, Division II. We could probably get Division I every 10, 15 years if we had a 50-meter swimming pool that's covered. Now, I've proposed that we look at the Safeway building. There's 5 beams in there that could branch over the top of it, use 2 to put it over the tennis courts. I'm looking over here behind the Heritage Center. I had asked the board to put in a pond back where you see the pond. But not only would it be for the pond, but it would also be for hockey. We have probably 3 to 4 hockey rinks short currently. And they're $50 to $75 an hour, for almost 16 hours a day. And that's 6 to 8 months. Okay? So there are low-hanging fruit here. Now, a while back, they had the same meeting out at Target Range. And I said, okay, why don't we do some funding? And they said, what do you mean? I said, well, if you look out there, there's so many acres. It's all gravel. Why don't we sell the gravel? Okay. Well, the head of the Parks Department at the time said, well, we'll hit the water table. I said, well, walk behind the Votech out there and you'll see precisely where the water table is. You could take 12 feet of gravel out of there at $1 a yard, and you'd have about $400,000 to fund a plan and set up some soccer fields. If you dug it outright and put benches on, if you see the roadsides and et cetera, you would have had bleachers for a good portion of them. The final thing that I would like to say is what happened to the money. One more thing to say is that when you look at soccer fields, where's the place gets worn? Right at the goals. So plan to put extra grass to dig up, to transplant for the goals so that you make the goals safer. If you've ever played soccer, the goalie gets definitely dinged up, but he gets dinged up or she gets dinged up a whole lot more when those goals deteriorate. So I would put that in your plans and thoughts. But I think that, like the gentleman said, you're looking at, these are expenses. Where do you come up with the expenses? Well, there's quite a few varieties. But tourism in this state is big. Now, if you have a facility between Glacier and Yellowstone, go look at Federal A and tell me who's going to win on this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Hello, thanks for having me here tonight. I'm Norma Nickerson. I actually direct the Institute for Tourism and Recreation Research at the University of Montana, and I am on the City Parks Board as well. I'm also a parent of a soccer player many years ago, but know what they're talking about when they're talking about how much money you spend when you travel around the state or the region or the country because you're on a team that does well. And one thing from an economic point of view, and you're hearing a lot of that, but what you're not considering as much is, our players go out, a team will go out and spend that $10,000. And when Heidi first said that, I had to go, okay, that's probably pretty close. That's $10,000 leaving Missoula for each team that leaves every single weekend. They're not staying here and spending their money around here. So that's one thing to look at, but we're also then losing what's not coming in. The other thing that is really important is a lot of these tournaments are going to happen during what we would call the not peak season for tourism. And that would mean that in the spring, for sure, maybe in the fall, and if we have the facilities, probably in the fall, all of a sudden you're going to bring a lot of people to Missoula who weren't coming here. The hotels weren't filled, and it's going to extend the economic impact throughout the city of Missoula and the county. Now, trails. I bike to work all the time. I love trails. Just you can't build enough of them for this community and this county and what's sounding like around the country, because people are finding that is their thing. And it doesn't matter if you're 2 years old and you're in the stroller, or if you're 80 years old and you want to go on a little loop. People are using them, and it's a health benefit. And I just want to comment with the individual about it's the rich people who would be using all this. I know that I coached YMCA soccer for many, many, many years, and I know they're going to be using those fields. And those are teams that don't have to spend a lot of money, and it gets those kids all involved in things that are wonderful. And I know that parks are free in general. They're free to everybody. And so I live up the Rattlesnake. Would I go to Fort Missoula way out there? It is going to be our central park. It is going to be our golden key, if you will, of pride, of health, because everything's going to connect, right? You're going to put those trails that connect everything. And it's going to be a place of gathering, so it'll be a community gathering spot, whether it's for sports, whether it's for family reunions. And then we have the historic piece of it. And not too many people have talked about that, but that Fort Missoula is a gem in and of itself. And I know they're going to go, oh my, what happened? All of a sudden we have to stay open all the time because we have people knocking on our doors. They want to go in here. These teams come out here, reunions come out here. They're going to look at Fort Missoula. And all of a sudden we are going to have this park, like a central park, that has every aspect that any community would really want to have. So I hope that you consider putting this on the ballot. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ross Mollenhauer, and I'd like to speak for the young parenting crowd as well as the immigrants to Missoula crowd. I've got a new son at home who's 1 year old, and I've got the diapers and all that figured out. Now he's already starting to walk, and I can see he's already fascinated with soccer balls of all types. And the other day I had the naiveness to ask some friends what someone said strikers, and I was like, what are strikers? I have no idea what strikers are. And they explained it to me, and anyway, I can see the writing on the wall that there's going to be all kinds of tournaments coming up and stuff like that. And I'm actually from New Jersey myself, and I moved here about 10 years ago, and I moved here for the recreation. I think Missoula has far and away better recreation than anywhere I've ever seen back east where I'm from, and that's the mountains, the rivers. Everybody knows the recreation here, but it's also the trails and the playing fields. So I would argue that for Missoula to keep its competitiveness, it really needs something like this. Competitiveness, I mean, with other cities, its peer cities. You hear about the recreation, say, of Bozeman or Big Sky or something like that, but Missoula needs this feature, I'd say, to stand out and keep people interested in Missoula and coming to Missoula. Anyway, that's my argument. And I think the other thing I want to mention is that people, a lot of times when I talk to people about this proposal, they will say, oh, Missoula can't afford it, taxes are high. And I would argue that we can't afford to not do this. So, thank you.
And you start with micro strikers. That's where my grandkids are.
My name is Diane Hickether, and I'm with the Lady Osprey softball team. We've recently kind of reorganized, but we have hosted tournaments at the fort. And one of the main goals and the main things that we've had problems with is injury, and that's from the foul balls being hit. In the 3 years that I've hosted, well, 2 years, because we moved it from this facility to another facility this year because of the injuries. We had a lot of discussion on it. We ended up with, I think, 6 injuries 2 years ago. Last year, we ended up with 2 serious ones, one with a broken nose and another little girl that ended up in the hospital because she got hit in the head with it. These balls the girls are hitting a lot harder and a lot farther. Our first home run on our 14U team now, they first hit their home run at age 11, and they are now hitting them even more. The girls are pitching faster. The balls are being hit harder. We do need these facilities. I do go to Tri-Cities. I'm one of these parents that travel all over. Tri-Cities has increased their softball tournament to be one of the largest softball tournaments offered out there. The facilities are beautiful. The safety issues are there. I would love to be able to move our tournament back there. We hosted a 41 team for 2 years. We then cut it down to 21 teams this year because of the fact that we did not want to have the injuries that we had before. So we did move it down by Sentinel this year. Having this facility would bring in a lot of money. I'm a former retailer, which had to close my store because of economy. went back to school and came into the medical field, which I'm really happy that community's next to this too. But without that, we can't host these, and these girls are getting scholarships. I think there is one of the most scholarships right now that are out there our girls are getting in softball. I don't know about soccer because I'm not a soccer mom. I used to be, but now I'm softball. But these girls are getting like major scholarships off these things, and we can only do that because we play, and we play hard. And it would be really nice to be able to stay and play a few more tournaments here in town, because it is hard to go other places. But we do it because of the fact that we can't get them to come here. We do have a waiting list every year for people to come if we had more places to do it. We have to cut them off. We started our sign-up sheet this year, and it was filled by December. We had a lot of people, just in case people backed out, but we would love to have had a bigger tournament, and without these facilities, we can't. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there. My name is Jamil Chaudhry. I work as the campus architect at the University of Montana. Just speaking in my private capacity, though, I can remember since I've been 18 years, 15 years ago, we sold the county or the city, or combination, the land that is currently being used here or potentially used for the sports complex. Anyway, the express intent of selling the land to the city county was for the sports complex. And I would just like to remind the commissioners about that. What started off as a dream on a thumbnail sketch or a little piece of napkin, we've been waiting 15 years to build. You've heard some of the opponents saying that we should wait. My thinking on this is we've waited 15 years. It's already been thought out. You know, we have waited and thought this thing through for 15 years. So it's about time. You've heard from all of the economic people how much money we're losing, how much money we could be bringing in. As a parent of 2 children that came here when they were small, year and 2.5 years old, they're now old enough, they're in college. They won't be using this field anymore. So as a parent, should I oppose this because my kids won't be? No. I fully support this. I want all of the other kids to be able to use this in the future. We have existing playing fields, yes, but they are not tournament quality. We're missing out on the tournaments. You know, people keep saying, well, we have soccer fields, we have baseball fields, we have tennis courts. They're not tournament quality. You've heard from the Economic Bureau that you need a certain level of tournament quality facilities to be able to bring all of these tournaments here. We're missing out on it. We have been for 15 years. So let's get behind this. It's about time. Let's go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Michael Sweet. I'm speaking here tonight as a citizen. I probably represent, or I participated in one of the 113 organizations supporting this master plan. I also was part of the 2004 Master Plan Committee and the McCormick Park Planning Committee, and have been involved in an effort to get a community center in Missoula. So I'm very supportive of this bond. I think the problem with the bond is it doesn't go far enough. I think that $3 should be, I'll give up 2 lattes a month. Only simply because we have, I think we have a habit of going after the next shiny object. And having been involved in the 2004 plan and the McCormick plan, I know there's a backlog of needs within our parks that aren't being addressed. And it's real nice to go after the next thing, even though very supportive, but I just think we need to do more. You asked for questions. My one question is, how does this plan or proposal align with the 2004 master plan? The master plan did a lot of community surveys, identified per capita lacked in facilities and set some priorities. And when I read through that plan, and I was involved in that committee, I don't find the alignment working very well. And rather, we could spend an hour on that. I'd certainly be willing to sit down, folks, and go through that. I also have a concern for one of the big issues have been relocating the maintenance facilities in McCormick Park. That is getting in the way of other advancements and improvements in completing that park plan. And I wasn't clear that any of the funding in this proposal would go to accomplish. That's been on the books since before Donna took over. It's been since Celebrate 2000 that I've been involved with. So first it was the promise of the Scott Street facility. Now it's other promises, but nothing ever seems to get done. So while I'm supportive, I'm very supportive, I should say. I just have a concern that we are going to impact our ability to take care of some of these other tasks. The other thing I would like to see an effort, should this bond be approved, to leverage other funding opportunities. I thought some people brought some great examples to do cost matching, and we could probably double the amount of funding if we look at some cost matching opportunities with federal programs, highway programs, and other things to do that. So I wouldn't look at this as the only money we have available. I'd make a concerted effort for cost matching with both NGOs and government programs. The third thing, which came to me tonight listening, and you're going to hate this word, but I'm going to throw it out there. I would like the county commissioners in the city consider a possibility, like Colorado, of a local options tax. We talked about the economic impact of that, but if we're looking at the long-term development and long-term maintenance of these facilities, Colorado has great facilities, great community facilities, because they take a portion of their sales tax and reinvest it in the communities. And I certainly think Missoula has the option for a local option tax, sales tax, that could provide a long-term sustaining foundation. So you've heard about the economic impact of some of the groups coming in here. Maybe we can realize that through that type of approach. So thank you.
You get to go to the legislature and convince them of
Hey,
that.
no problem.
My name is George Mullen. I'm a member of the Montana Rugby Union, the Youth Rugby Association. I've been a part of that organization for 26 years now. Bringing the aspect, we look at the fields as a benefit to bring other resources besides soccer. It's rugby, it's ultimate frisbee. I have 2 kids right now. They're in traveling soccer. I coach one team. I think we're going to Livingston this weekend. It's kind of sad that, we can't come to Missoula. But Valley County is doing the same thing you are. I think they're about 10 years behind. They have about a 10-year-old assessment of impact of what it's going to do for the economy. There's kind of tentative fingers going out there looking for land to try and do a 6-field soccer field, multi-usage for the Rugby Association down there. And they're also looking at the fields that are used there to expand the softball, to expand the trail system. Even River Valley County is looking at the same thing. They see the economic growth. They see the benefit of that also. So it's like, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My name's Rod Harcel. I'm a longtime Missoula resident. I'm on the board of the Boys and Girls Club in town, which uses the parks and trails. I'm also a member of the Friends of Fort Missoula Regional Park Committee, and I'm also the president of the Missoula Softball Association. Our issues and motivations are all about safety. Right now, the fields, the infrastructure of the fields are in poor conditions. A couple examples, we had a player who was excited about somebody getting a great hit, and he actually impaled his head with a nail in one of the dugouts. Another situation last week, one of the bars holding up the screens in the dugout fell down and actually fell on an already injured player. I hate to think what would happen if there was a child in the dugout that could have gotten hit as well. The other things that are happening with safety, it was mentioned earlier, is that our fences are short. The ASA rules are 300 feet from home plate. Our field fences are 270, 280 feet. That's why you're seeing balls being hit into soccer players. Soccer fans, mainly parents, get angry when that happens. And we've had a couple cases where they have thrown balls at our players. I don't know any softball player that wants to hurt anybody. We're just trying to play the game. So this safety issue is we need to separate soccer from softball, and this plan right here does a beautiful job of doing that. I tried to find information today before coming to the meeting is when the softball complex at the fort was built. I'm not sure. Does anybody really know that? I looked everywhere. I've been playing softball for 41 years. I don't think I ever recall any kind of improvements out there in the whole 41 years. Though that complex is done, it's spent, it needs to be replaced. I have to say the park board, the county park board and the advisory has given us money to put dirt in there and try to make it as playable as possible, but these fields need to be replaced for safety reasons. The making the fields regulation size will also give us the opportunity to invite national tournaments and regional tournaments. When we have fences that are only 270, 280 feet, they won't even consider us. About 10 years ago, DECO tore down the signs on the fences because we didn't want the other cities in the state of Montana to know that our fences were so short, we wouldn't even get state tournaments. So the time is now to get this done. This is doing the most good for the most people. And so I encourage the county commissioners to put the proposed bond on the November ballot and let the citizens of Missoula County make the timely, important decision together. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Dave Peppinger. I'm the president of FC Missoula Youth Soccer Program. Excuse me. We are members of the Montana Youth Soccer Association, which has members from just about every town and city in the state of Montana. I've heard discussion about how rich people get to play this sport. I don't consider myself rich by any stretch of the word, and I'm sure that people from Libby and Three Forks and smaller communities like that don't consider themselves rich either. How the scheduling happens, we travel every single weekend. We play 2 games on those weekends in other communities. Every year we meet. Every organization from the state of Montana meets for one weekend to schedule these games. Who's going to host, where they're scheduled, who's playing who, and how that works is the better communities raise their hands and say, I'm happy to host. We've got the fields to host. Helena, they've hosted more games this week or this year than just about any other club in the state. Billings, Great Falls, Kalispell, all of these places have absolutely stellar fields. Heck, Butte has a much better facility than we could dream of right now. And all of this stuff we could have. I traveled to tournaments all over. We just came back from 3 Blind Refs in Kalispell this past weekend. They had 156 registered teams for that tournament this past weekend, the largest turnout they've ever had in 20 years. Figure an average of $500 per team to play. That's a pretty good return on investment. Every hotel was up there was packed. You couldn't even find a camping spot. You could probably put a tent on the side of the road, I guess, but city might have a problem with that. So when I look at this sort of facility and what we use, FC Missoula mainly uses the Fort Fields for our training, our practices, our playing, whatever we can. And this year we looked at the Stevensville High School. Instead of using the Fort Missoula facility, I've talked to state directors and they've said, we can't have you host any state games or state tournaments because your fields are horrible. You have exposed sprinkler heads, you have divots in the ground, you have things that are liabilities to all the organizations involved. We can't We can't ethically let you do that. That's the wrong choice. So I said, well, if there's a chance that we can improve the fields and make them a better field and have more fields, would that be an option to bring the state tournament here? He said, Dave, you build it, we'll bring it. I was over in Coeur d'Alene, Hot Shots tournament, 150 teams, phenomenal tournament. They've got fields scattered all over. The tournament director there, she laughed at me and she said, Dave, I've never understood why Missoula, the Mecca, it is the place where everyone wants to go. You guys have the infrastructure that we could only dream of having, and you don't have a tournament. So all of these things, we can continue to bring tournaments here. Okay, I've heard the discussion that only rich people can have it, so on and so forth. Okay, I play golf too. It's an expensive sport. Do I go to Larchmont? No. I can play anywhere I want, but I play at those better locations. So the point being, if we build a location and facility like this, I can tell you right now, you want to go there. We go to Great Falls. We're going to Billings here in a couple weeks for the statewide tournament. They moved it from Kalispell to Billings. The point being, this is something that we can do. And obviously, by the show of people in here, this is something that everyone here wants to do. We've got a couple people that might oppose it, and that's okay. Everyone has the right to decision. But we just need to do the right thing. This is our chance to make sure that the future of Missoula has a prominent place to play, our kids can grow, and make this an important place for us to have tournaments. So, and that's just soccer. Include lacrosse, rugby, softball, you name it. The means are endless. I live out Mullen Road, and I remember specifically many of my neighbors coming to my door when they were talking about the walking trail and the biking trail out there. They would come to my door and oppose the issue, saying it's going to cost us way too much money. No one's going to use it except for those crazy joggers, right? Here's the funny thing. Those people that came to my door are those people that are walking that. And guess what? In the wintertime, early in the morning, I see them out there with their ATVs and plows plowing the snow. Even when it says no motorized vehicles, they do it early in the morning so people can walk in safety. So the point is, if we build it, people will come. Thanks.
Thanks.
Tate Jones, Executive Director, Rocky Mountain Museum of Military History, and Vice President of the Northern Rockies Heritage Center. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to comment on the Parks and Trails Bond Initiative. On behalf of both the RMMMH and the NRHC, I have been working with the initiative for some time now, and I wish to lend the endorsement of both organizations to this worthy and important community endeavor. In addition to enhancing the quality of community life throughout Missoula County, the initiative will bring forward a new and welcome Fort Missoula Regional Park, an expressed hope of the Lake County surveyor, Elmer Frame, when he made such efforts to secure portions of the Fort Missoula Reservation for park use during the 1970s. The design of the regional park has been professionally drafted and reviewed with intensive input from community groups and stakeholders. And the master plan carefully preserves the military history components of the Fort Missoula campus. The recreational, natural, and heritage opportunities offered by the regional park plan will be a fitting and rewarding legacy to leave to future generations of Missoula County residents. Of special note to myself, as curator of the former headquarters of what was the largest civilian conservation corps district in the nation during the Great Depression of the 1930s, is a planned heritage architecture, interpretive exhibits, and other CCC-related components that will be integrated into the regional park. And fittingly, the entrance is to be marked by the Iron Mike statue of a CCC corpsman with pickaxe to be procured from the National CCC Alumni Organization. Almost all of us in this room, while growing up, had the story of the Great Depression drummed into our heads by our parents or relatives, usually in conjunction with some juvenile lesson in how to handle money. But the Depression story is also one of a people coming together in times of crisis to do worthwhile and lasting things. And the CCC heritage of this park is a worthwhile vehicle to pass that story on to those yet to come. Parks take large amounts of money to build and maintain, of course, and this one will require financial investment as well. But this is a project we should gratefully take on. The flagship parks of Missoula, Greeno, Bonner, Caras, and others, were put together at times when this county was a good deal less affluent than it is today. But our predecessors undertook the task because they wanted to leave Missoula County a better place than they found it. We can do no less, and we should do more. I have yet to view a historical monument in the U.S. to someone who saved lots of money on their taxes, but I have found many to those who left as their inheritance public parks, recreational facilities, and other community benefits. The Parks and Trails Initiative is a major project to assume, and indeed, Fort Missoula Regional Park, when completed, would be the largest developed urban park in the state of Montana. But let us dare to do mighty things. Tomorrow we commemorate the 70th anniversary of the D-Day landings of World War II, an unparalleled national effort. Those of that generation were unafraid to take on jobs of unprecedented size. By comparison, we are not being asked to go into battle, but simply to send some money to the public good. We should willingly do so, and along the way, impart to our successor generations the same priceless example of service to the community that was bequeathed to us.
Thank you, Bruce.
Like the previous speaker, I'll keep this short. Make it short. I'm John Baldridge. Like a previous speaker, I'm multi-hatted, but I'm here entirely on my own as a citizen. I'm multi-hatted in the sense that I do work at the Bureau of Business and Economic Research and have worked a lot with Norman Nickerson at ITRR also. And Dr. Barkey, the director, and I have had the opportunity to look under the hood of two different economic models at possible numbers associated with this and the economic impact, and I can tell you that it's very considerable, direct, indirect, and induced. Second, I'm a soccer dad. I'm the parent of two young men of whom I am very proud. And the opportunities that soccer has provided them have been wonderful. However, they have been limited relative to a great many other places because of the low number of fields and because, unfortunately, because of the high usage, the corresponding low quality of those fields. But finally, my third hat may be the most important one, at least something that I can bring and add to this. I'm a retired Command Sergeant Major in the United States Army Reserve. I was the last Command Sergeant Major of the last United States Army Reserve unit assigned to Fort Missoula. I've also served in Iraq for a year, Afghanistan for a year. I was in the Army Reserve for 28 years. My job as a Command Sergeant Major was to be the keeper of military history and tradition, customs and courtesies for my unit, for the 379th Engineer Battalion at Fort Missoula. So part of my job was to make sure that the soldiers who served with me and under me understood the heritage, the proud heritage of Fort Missoula. So now comes this project, one that has been in the works in one stage or another for at least 15 years, really more. What a perfect opportunity to give something to everyone in our community, to do very significant economic development, the sort of economic development that will have a very large impact and really throughout the county. And think of the hundreds and thousands of people who are going to come through that park, and they're going to go by the cemetery. And they're going to go by where those Buffalo Soldiers were, where those soldiers who served in the Spanish-American War were. They're going to learn all of the World War II history that is in that park. What a gift do you have the opportunity to give the future generations of Missoula and Missoula County? So I urge you, please have the public hearing, put this on the ballot, and give citizens an opportunity to talk about this with other citizens and maybe pass it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dear Commissioners Curtis, Carey, and Lindquist, my name is Kristen Anderson, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. Your consideration is crucial to the health and vibrancy of this community. As you know, according to the American Cancer Society, physical activity reduces the risk of many cancers, including breast, colon, endometrial, and esophageal, among others. Additionally, it reduces the risk of chronic disease such as heart disease and diabetes. From an individual standpoint, the financial and personal costs of these diseases are tremendous, and we all have a responsibility to prevent this whenever possible. Looking at prevention of disease at the population level, the Guide to Community Preventive Services also recommends the following to reduce suffering related to preventable disease. Creation of or enhanced access to places for physical activity based on strong evidence for their effectiveness in increasing physical activity and improving physical fitness. As a family and preventive medicine physician, I cannot overemphasize the importance of regular physical activity as part of a comprehensive strategy to maintain good health. The development of the Fort Missoula Regional Park helps us all meet these recommended evidence-based prevention goals. I'm confident we all want to see this put into practice for ourselves, our family, and our community. Development of community resources is without a doubt a case where the tide raises all boats. As a parent, wife, and physician, I encourage everyone in this room to support the development of the park.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Gwen Jones. I'm the Vice President of the Missoula Lacrosse Club, so I've heard some wonderful things tonight. I'm just going to give you a very narrow piece of information, the lacrosse point of view on the field situation in Missoula. Lacrosse started, let's see, there was Grizzly, University of Montana lacrosse, but for 12th grade on down, lacrosse really started in Missoula in about 2008. So this is a very new sport to Missoula. It is growing rapidly. I'm on the board of Missoula Lacrosse Club, which that's from 8th grade on down to 1st grade. We had this year 5 boys teams, 2 girls teams. Each high school, I don't administrate that, thank heavens, but they are also private club teams. Each high school in Missoula has their own team, the public high schools, and there are now those are boys teams. There's also 2 girls teams, Big Sky and Hellgate. So in 7 years, the growth has been exponential. It is very popular, it's growing, it's not going away. Sitting on the volunteer parent board for this last year, I can tell you we spent many, many hours figuring out where, as of March 10th, we were going to have our practices due to lack of fields. And we finally, since we're the newcomers, wedged ourselves in a couple of places, but it was hard. The second main issue is for lacrosse in Montana, you have to travel for a game. Until maybe 10 years from now, when there's many, many more lacrosse teams, you won't travel as much, but you travel for games right now. So each city hosts a jamboree or a tournament. It starts with Billings in early March. Missoula's is called Lax Fest. It's towards the end of April, and it is one of the most popular because by then there is no sleet or snow. It's usually beautiful. People are so happy to come to Missoula. This year for Lax Fest, we had over 40 teams here. We had Spokane, Coeur d'Alene. I think there were some from the Tri-Cities even came over from Washington all the way over there. Whitefish, Helena, Bozeman, Billings. Okay, we had a 2-day tournament. Due to lack of fields, we spent hours scheduling this to make sure everybody got enough games, because you don't want to drive and just play one game. You want to play 2 or 3 games. Otherwise, it's just not effective. Sunday morning, the second day of the tournament, we had to start games at 7 a.m. out at Fort Missoula. So we're standing out there at 6:30 in the morning when it's 42 degrees with our 10-year-olds trying to get them warmed up, and I'm explaining to people, well, we only have so many fields. We did the best we could. So I just wanted you to have that perspective that these sports are growing, which is great. After a long winter, our kids need to get out and run around. And childhood obesity is an issue. So this is good. This needs to be happening. But people are dying to come to Missoula for tournaments. We would do more if we could, because we are the center, we are a hub for all of the cities that I just mentioned. They would much rather travel here. Whitefish will not go to Billings. It's too far. We are very central, so there's a huge potential here for more lacrosse is coming. It's just a question of where it's going to go. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lisa Dworick. I'm a new resident to Missoula, but also a very interested one. And last night I had the privilege of attending the city's growth policy kickoff. I'm sure many of you were there. And this growth policy is really a visionary plan for Missoula in looking forward, and also a fiscally responsible plan. And something that I noticed during this growth policy was they kept mentioning inventorying our assets. And Missoula has so many assets, but what it doesn't have is something like this. And not only does this asset align with 5 of the 6 key factors mentioned during last night's growth policy kickoff, those being community design, so the livability of our community, the safety, wellness, the environmental health, and the economic health of our community. So this asset aligns with 5 of those things, and we will not have to retrofit or make do with makeshift infrastructure for the next 5 years if we don't implement it now. So as a new resident to Missoula, I urge you to consider this. I see myself in 5 years choosing a community to live in 10 years having a family, and a community that has a wide range of assets is somewhere that I and many others will choose to live. One thing the keynote speaker, Ed McMahon, an expert from the Urban Land Institute, mentioned last night was that we need to realize that our assets are being used. This would be used, but also note that the impact of its use would be tremendous. And so I urge you to consider this for those of us in this room and those of us that plan to have families in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Brad Murphy. I'm the Executive Director of the Adams Center and also the Chair of the Missoula Sports Commission. I had this list, and I think everybody spoke about it, like you said, Commissioner Curtis. So I guess I can just throw it away. Anyway, through the Sports Commission, we try to bring sporting events into the city of Missoula and our community. And we are at a deficit, both with our interior facilities and our outdoor facilities. And it is a challenge. As Mary and Barb described, there is a huge economic impact, but we also lose out on a lot of events because of our lack of facilities. It is my mission, along with those people on the Sports Commission at the university and a lot of these people in this room tonight, to do just that, bring more events into our city. But we need to have the infrastructure and the facilities to do this. So I urge you, please put this proposal on the ballot. And I got to tell one story. We were at a sports commission meeting, and Lance Osler is one of the head people for youth rugby in this town. And I go, well, Lance, what do you think about this project? He goes, wow, Brad, we could grow Make It Fest to like 128 teams. And all I can think of is that's a lot of Zulu warrior dances and a lot of naked men running through Missoula. Please support this. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Abe Kurian. I am the coordinator for the Missoula Softball Association. Thank you for taking the time to be here. Thank you for everybody else that has come out. There is, like Brad said, everybody seems to be represented. I am here to represent at least 1,700 players that we have in our association right now. I have 122 teams. When I started in this office and was hired in, I had 106 teams. We are now up, we are growing. With this new facility, it will continue to grow. We are butted up against a lot of different things. When tournaments do come in on the weekends, they're shortened times because of, I just had a tournament this weekend that I hosted and was butted up right against my league play. Just to let you know, I kind of wish we could have held this meeting at the fort because I came from there at 6:15. I was out there for the start of our women's games. They are being used right now as well as Parks and Rec. Ryan has his teams out there. There are soccer games going on right now. There are bikers out there right now. And there are walkers and joggers on the trail. If we could have held this meeting out there, it would be visible to you how much it's used. I schedule over 850 games a year on what we have right now, 9 fields. On Sundays, my biggest day, I have 8 of those 9 fields being used, with 3 games being played on each one of those fields. Every night of the week, 6 nights, we are playing softball with league, with the Missoula Softball Association. At the same time, Parks and Rec has 3 nights of those, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So I'm representing all of the softball community right now, since I'm here speaking. And I'm glad I'm not the last one. With that being said, I do want you to know that on Saturdays, the only day that we don't have league, we have tournaments. We have 10 tournaments that play throughout the summer here that are set up by local businesses, and those local businesses run from the Rhino Bar that sponsors a tournament, the Elbow Room that is going to be in 2 weeks. We have next weekend a 30-team tournament, co-rec only, that is being hosted by one of our teams that paired up with Tough Enough to Wear Pink, and they are going to do a fundraiser. This is their 2nd annual batting for, sorry for this, but boobies. And they are batting for boobies, and they are raising money for Tough Enough to Wear Pink next week. We could grow these tournaments and have these fundraisers with this new complex. Again, I would love to see it. I mean, it will benefit me because I do work in this field. I came in here 15 years ago, started playing softball in the Church League, another softball organization in town that runs on Friday nights. All 9 fields are used on Friday night. 6 at the fort for the Church League, and I use the other 3. We have 48 teams playing Friday nights in a 4-hour period. And that is huge. That is absolutely, it's stellar. So I just encourage you to keep that in mind. Again, I thank all of you from all of your different organizations, and I hope it's on the ballot.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Brunger. I'm the general manager at Adventure Life. Adventure Life is a travel company based here in Missoula that started here in Missoula. And we put together active adventure, cultural, and eco tours to worldwide destinations. And we have a lot of experience working with local communities around the world, particularly in Latin America and Africa, doing feasibility studies for tourism projects. And one consistent trend, obviously in the adventure travel industry, is needing open space, trail systems, and parks for recreation to attract tourists to these areas. And that's what makes some of these great destinations successful. Our company is, we are considering using our resources and developing a new product with inbound tourism here into the Rocky Mountains. It's time for us, after being in business for 15 years, to look into that. And there is no doubt that this type of project would allow Missoula to become a hub for adventure and active travel which is in the travel industry, certainly is one of the fastest growing sectors of travel. And with our location between Glacier and Yellowstone, and then these types of infrastructure and resources, it would only make Missoula just a real prized place for people to come explore and visit in the West. Thank you.
Thank you.
I broke it.
Work like that?
Just. Does it work? Yeah. Oh, okay, good. Then I guess we can just leave it here and stop playing with this thing. I'm Vicki Watson. I'm a 30-year resident of Missoula, a taxpayer, a park user, a parent and grandparent of kids who have enjoyed Missoula's parks and trails and playing fields and playgrounds, particularly the natural parks. They really like those. Others have already spoken eloquently of the value to individual and community health of having accessible and affordable playing space, and I echo their support for this greater investment in our parks. But I also want to echo some of the concerns we've heard tonight. If we are mindful of potential problems, hopefully we can head them off. I'd certainly be happy to see more tournaments in Missoula, but I think it's also important to ensure that tournaments don't wind up monopolizing the facilities and also monopolizing the attention of the Parks Department. We need to be sure to provide a balance that reserves time for affordable community use of the facilities as well. I can think of some facilities that used to be affordable to local community groups, and with time, as they competed with groups that had more money, they became unaffordable to these community groups. So I think that's important, you know, certain amount of time for tournaments, certain amount of time for affordable community use. I also want to echo Mike Sweet's points about earlier plans for facilities that never quite materialized. And it's important that Missoula ensure that things like the multi-use facility that was planned for McCormick Park, that promise gets kept at some point and doesn't get lost in, you know, dealing with all the exciting new facilities we're talking about here. This obviously could be another jewel in the crown of Missoula, but we don't want it to come to so dominate the attendance. The parks get spread pretty thin. They have a lot of things to take care of. They often don't have enough money to get everything done we would like for them to do. And if this comes, has all the support of the business community because of the economic development and so on and so forth, it can sort of turn into parks, that's your job. And what happens to the little community parks and, you know, taking care of those kinds of facilities. So make sure that we don't forget the importance of all those little neighborhood parks and the natural parks and the playgrounds and so on and so forth when we have this big facility. It's sort of some of the concerns that were echoed with respect to the fairgrounds becoming a big convention center. It might then become unaffordable to community groups to use it and have some unintended consequences. Thank you for listening to all of us and working so hard to keep a high quality of life here in Missoula.
Thank you, Ms. Watson.
Hi, my name is Brian Dernberger. I'm a local business owner, also a parent of soccer players. I use this facility not only with soccer, but also flag football with Parks and Rec, and do other things with Y. I'm there from spring to fall. I grew up around here, so I know most of the softball players. Being most importantly a taxpayer, I think this is a no-brainer. We'll vote it, no problem. But how we can call ourselves a garden city and not have the best sporting complex, I think, is very key. So thank you for your time.
Hello, Commissioners. Thank you for this chance to speak. My name is Judy Matson. I live in the West Riverside community, not in Missoula, like many of the folks who have spoken so far. And I want to, first of all, congratulate the committee that's worked over the years to bring this park plan to fruition. I know that a lot of effort has gone into that, and it's a beautiful plan. It's not to love about, just everything I've seen about it's beautiful. I am really excited as more of a county resident than a city resident that the county parks are going to get a boost from this, and that there is a long-term bond issue going forward which will provide money over a period of years. I think that's really important, and as others have mentioned, maintenance being involved with the funding is super important, at least to me as well. It's too easy to start something and then struggle to maintain it. So one issue that I guess I would like to bring forward has to do with the $3 million that's going for the county park lands. There are many of us who I'm sure travel to Missoula and would enjoy the regional park. I love the Fort Missoula myself. However, that's a long trip for me to come to a park when I could really benefit from trails in my own neighborhood, so that I could just jump on the trail, jog, walk my dog. And there are lots of kids in my neighborhood, one of the most densely populated neighborhoods in the county, who don't have the opportunity to have transportation to go to some of these nice facilities. I wish they could. However, we've got great spaces where I live. So I would ask that perhaps there could be more funding in that $3 million pot that would benefit kids and adults, seniors like myself, who are not able or willing to drive all the way across Missoula to get to this lovely park. As I've heard all of the comments, which, you know, the financial benefits are great, and it made me wonder, is there some way that some of all that money can be plowed back into this fund going forward? If it's going to bring in, you know, $10,000 a weekend on several tournaments, there might be a way to benefit the whole pot of money through that use. But anyway, there's a lot of driving going on, and at the risk of being a downer, we do have to start considering our energy use as we're going forward with all of our projects. Used to be, we jump in the car, go somewhere, never gave it a thought. Now we know that there are important considerations with our climate change and our habits of use of energy that have to be looked at. I don't have the answer, but we do need to start thinking that way, I think. So congratulations on a great park plan. I do think this should go on the ballot, but I do think that it could be tweaked to be more beneficial to the county as a whole. So thanks a lot.
I'd like to echo what Judy said and thank the commissioners for giving us this opportunity to learn about the regional park. And my hat is really off to those folks who have put in so much time. Both Judy and I served on a Milltown Redevelopment Working Group. It has a longer name than that, but I can't remember what it is. And and so we know what you guys, some of what you have done, and it's just remarkable.
And what's your name? I'm sorry, but you didn't give us your name, Gary.
I didn't give you.
I thought he did.
Well,
I guess I know.
We just know you.
My name is Gary Matson.
Okay,
I live
thank
out
you.
in the suburban area of Milltown called West Riverside.
Suburb of Milltown, I love it.
I support the Parks and Trails bond measure. Improvement of playgrounds and the development of the Fort Missoula Regional Park would have great benefit for Missoula area residents. However, I most strongly support the part of this measure that would create and maintain trails throughout the county, including new public trail connections between communities, as it said in the information that I read. I live in West Riverside, which is the most densely populated area of the state, and our residents are wholly lacking in pedestrian and bicycle routes that are safe. It is an important goal to provide safe trails connections for our developing Milltown State Park. and for recreation and for transportation to Missoula. And the dedicated money for maintenance is certainly important and very much appreciated, because we've seen a trail in our neighborhood that is wonderful and could use some maintenance once in a while, and we have volunteers that do that sometimes, but not all the time. The dream of interconnected system of trails between our counties, communities, and their attractions lives on. The Trails and Parks bond measure would help realize the dream. And I'm not a faultless mathematician, but I think if the trails component was doubled from 3 to 6, I think that would, the monthly cost would go from 3 to 325. But don't check my math, but I think it's not very much. So I really support putting a little more in on trails.
So you're going to get the fancier coffee that you're going to give out.
I'll get the grande instead of the tall.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you for your hard work tonight. You deserve better chairs. We as taxpayers should pay for that.
You paid for this.
I did wait. I want to assure you I did wait to see if what I wanted to say would be said. But I just want to say a little differently. My name's Jason Shearer.
There we go.
I work for the Y, but I'm not representing the Y today. I just want to speak for myself. I've been a youth worker for 26 years. I've been a volunteer, a fundraiser, a donor, an advocate for the poor, an advocate of youth health. I coach 2 soccer teams out on those fields. I've helped people fill out financial assistance applications who don't write well. I've had kids on my team who needed that opportunity to be included, to belong, to be a part of everybody else. This is not a choice between this or other worthy projects. These people have spent a decade working on this. It would be a decade for the next worthy project. This is the project that a decade's work has put before you. This is our effort. This is what we believe will be the best solution at this time. It serves many interests and many people. It serves the rich and the poor. When you come to town and you spend with your team $10,000, you spend it in a restaurant where a single mother is working. And when she earns more money, she has more money for her family. When we coach kids on these fields who come from low-income families, they grow up to do better. They grow up to feel better about themselves. This is a project about bringing a community together, something it believes in programs that promote health and physical ability, and they also promote inclusion and a sense of worth for young people. I encourage you to put this project before the voters. Voters are smart. We are going to pass it if you put it before us. We're smart. We were smart enough to elect all of you, and we'll do the right thing here as well.
I don't know if I need this or not. Hello, my name is Annette Pierce, and I had no intention of getting up and talking. I just came to listen. But being the nature that I have, and you guys, man, hands up, hands to you. There is some excellent stuff said tonight, and I agree with just about every bit of it. But, and I did, and forgive me, I did some notes. They may be out of order, and I don't have my reader, so,
this
anyway.
could be fun.
Thank you. Not strong enough. No. Anyway, I just wanted to say that, so many of you talked so eloquently and everything, and I'm obviously nervous, but, there's been so much good stuff said. Yeah, country's good. Anyway, not only would the trails absolutely benefit everybody. There is nobody here in the city that couldn't benefit from it if they don't want to, unless, maybe those that are bedridden or whatever. But we have such a beautiful place to live. I feel so fortunate, so privileged to live in such a beautiful place. And to not be outside and encouraging kids and everybody to get out and use it. I mean, it's a place where kids could go not only, and as they've talked, health benefits, not only physical health, but mental health. A place to socialize, and so much is the social media now. Get away from it. Get up. Get active. Get doing. The more kids get active and get doing, the more they're going to benefit this community in the long run. We've been too busy sitting around. And it's a shame. Look what we have. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And to share it with others. And like they said, there are so many people that want to come here. And I mean, we have so much here. And no disrespect. What I'm about to say is not meant in disrespect. But the playing fields here are an embarrassment, and they're pathetic. My daughters have played soccer. My oldest one is now in college, but she played for, 13 years. And again, I don't recall really seeing any improvements made to these fields. The divots, I think, have been there for basically the 15 years that I've been at the soccer fields. And the risk of injury, I have girls much more susceptible to ACL tears. We just had a girl on our team last weekend tear her ACL, partially due to the fields. I'm not going to say it was all, but partially. We've heard about the tournaments and the financial benefits. I don't think it's necessary to expound on that anymore, but I will say we do travel out of town. We travel a lot, and we spend quite a bit of money. Would I rather stay in Missoula and spend it here? Absolutely, because even though we live here, between games, you go out and eat. We stay at the hotels that we stay at, we look for ones that have breakfast to help cut the costs. But we're spending the money. We've tried to provide opportunities for our daughters in sports. So we've gone to other states many times a year. And it's a shame. Missoula has everything to offer. I know people would, once we started getting tournaments going, oh my God, we'd be turning people away, or turning teams away. And in regards to Rod's comment, Rod Harcel, we laughed about the injuries in the dugouts, but really, it isn't funny. No. It's not funny at all. Thank goodness we all still have a sense of humor about it. But anyway, and also, let's see, oh yes, I really believe that there are very few households in Missoula County, that can't afford $36 a year. I mean, really. For the amount of coffee and stuff that's drank in this town, yeah, it's, that's just a little side note. But with Smurfit having gone, we need different avenues to help bring in income in Missoula. This would be one. And as the one gal suggested, maybe, some of the income being brought in from that could be turned back in to help support the maintenance. Because no doubt, you have something like this, there's going to be maintenance. But I believe that the economic pluses that it would bring would far surpass the costs to maintain and keep it going. And the more we keep kids active, the less trouble they're going to be in. I had a elderly lady several years ago talk. I can't even remember what was on, people were trying to get past or what. But she said she wasn't for that because she was retired. Her kids were grown. They were gone. Well, the unfortunate part about that is, if they had somebody that or let's say somebody, a young kid broke into their house. Well, maybe if he had had something, or she had had something like this to keep them busy, it would have changed the direction of their life. Something like this is absolutely positive. There's so many negatives these days. This is a huge positive. And as Mr. Peppinger said, that, it's not just about being the wealthy, and somebody else said it, it's not just about the wealthy, it's about everybody being able to utilize it. Let's see here. And then, let's see. Oh, I guess, and basically, that's about it. It will bring, it'll bring the cost down, the money that it'll generate, the jobs that it'll bring in. I mean, they've been dreaming for 15 years, and it's time to make the dream. We got to step out and really help move this city forward in this way, in such a positive manner. And as he said, and I was going to say it too, in regards to the Field of Dreams, build it and they'll come. And I really believe we would have teams and that would be, we would have waiting lists on the tournaments that we put on for people to come. Because Missoula, people love Missoula. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, I thought you said you weren't a good public speaker. That was pretty good. My name is John Ottinger. I'm one of the longtime members of Friends of Fort Missoula Regional Park. I've been a member for 12 years, and I am very passionate about the park. The reason I got involved in Friends in the first place is because I play sports. I've been playing lots of different sports, rugby and a lot of other different sports for the 34 years that I've lived here in Missoula, and I can attest personally to the lack of quantity and the lack of quality of the playing fields here. And there's been a lot said about it already. No need to beat that one too much more. But the other thing that I want to really emphasize, though, is that this park is about so much more than just the playing fields. There's 10K of walking trails. There's the dog park. When the rest of the park gets completed down towards the river, there's riparian zones, there's ponds, there's the dog pond, there's the CCC themed pavilions, benches, the historical landmarks, signage, all that kind of stuff makes this park a really special place. And that's one of the reasons that I am really passionate about this park, and have been working hard on this for 12 years. We've heard a lot about the economic impact of the park. All of what everybody says is true, but there's another economic component that people haven't brought up that I think is important for us to keep in mind. Why do we live here in Missoula? It's beautiful outdoors for the most part. That's one of the biggest reasons why people live in Missoula. So it's the mountains, it's the rivers, but it's also the parks and the trails. And if we have good parks and trails and we have the activities available to be able to participate in, when we live here, we're going to be able to retain good quality employees and we're going to be able to attract good quality employees. So employers are thinking about that, they know that, and that's a very important component from an employer's perspective, is how to attract good quality employees and how to retain good quality employees. So it's right for Missoula from an economic standpoint on a number of different levels. And again, that's another reason why I'm really passionate about this park. Another reason is, we've heard this, the Central Park, Golden Gate Park. This really is going to be our Golden Gate Park. This is going to be a marquee park that we can all be really proud of. And we go to some of these other cities around the state, and yeah, they have enough fields. We saw the graph where everybody in the state has enough fields but us, and that is true. But those parks they're not that great. There's enough open space, enough rectangular playing fields to play on, but they're nothing special. When people leave Missoula and they're driving home in their car to Boise or Spokane or Billings, I want them to be saying, wow, that is a really cool park, and I want to come back. So the last thing that I want to leave you guys with is that, I've been doing this for 12 years. This land was bought in 1998. There isn't any reason to wait. Now is the time. So I urge you guys to approve putting it on the ballot, and I look forward to being able to vote yes.
Thank you, John. Is there anyone else that wants to add anything to the conversation tonight? Okay, then.
Here I come again.
Oh,
No, just one thing that I wanted to say that I forgot to say is, my youngest daughter's a freshman in high school. So how much she'd get to play on them unless she did co-rec, I don't know. But anyway, I guess what I'm looking at is I want to be able to sit at this park and watch my grandchildren play and go, wow, look what we did. Thank you.
All right, so commissioners, have you heard enough information to decide whether or not we should have a public hearing?
I'm thinking if we'd have heard this much information from people about the gas tax the city wanted, maybe we would have considered putting it on the ballot, but we did not. I was really glad to see some things that were said tonight that confirmed what my daughter was telling me the other night, because she was railing on. She couldn't make the meeting tonight because she's playing softball, actually. Right, yes. But I was watching her game, one of her games the other night, and the guys were warming up on this other field, and these foul balls kept coming over and almost got me and my husband, one of them, and they weren't yelling heads. We finally told them, yell heads, give us a clue. And then they almost nailed a little boy that was walking around, kind of got a little ways away from his father. And so I started asking my daughter, so if you looked at the plans, how would these plans be different than what you've got here now? And I know you go to a lot of tournaments. She actually, the criteria in her buying her next used car was it had to have room for all the gear and people and the coolers for when they go to tournaments, because they're always going out of town, and her little Honda Civic wasn't cutting it, okay? So she has a small SUV, it's cutting it now. But so she was explaining a lot to me, and also that the girls are hitting farther now and stuff. So all of those things were confirmed or mentioned while my daughter was railing to me the other night. So I was glad to hear so many other people talking about just the softball fields in general, and I'd already known some of the stuff about the soccer fields.
So hits like a girl has a new meaning now.
Hits like a girl has a whole new meaning, including sometimes cops being called at one of the fields where when they go to the trouble and expense to lease the fields, and the girls are hitting the ball so far out that the people at the skate park complain and call the cops, and then they turn around and they tell the cops, but we paid good money to use these fields. You tell them they're using that over there at their own risk. So I got quite an earful once she got going. Actually, y'all conducted yourself probably a little more calmly than she did, but we're family, and I guess family can get away with railing a little bit. So I've heard enough. I think that this definitely warrants having a hearing.
And I don't know, did we list this as an action item?
No,
I don't think we can take action tonight, but we heard what you said, so we can take action.
Next week we
Tuesday.
can put it on a
Yeah.
agenda.
So it'll be June 25th here at 7 o'clock. Unless we need a little bit more time for some of the financial stuff to make sure that we weigh it all out so that when the public sees what's going to go on the ballot, they know more about the maintenance and all that stuff. So it could be a little bit later, but it would be early July, but not July 4th. Yes?
I'm not understanding how the series of things that have to happen are going to happen and when they're going to happen. You mentioned an action item and Tuesday and then the 25th.
Oh, an action item. On Tuesday, we could have an action item to set the public hearing date, because it's not listed on our public agenda today, was not posted as the commissioners taking action tonight.
Making an actual motion.
So
have
on
the hearing.
Tuesday, we can have that on our administrative meeting for us to take action to set the date. Then, once we have the public hearing, it would have a resolution for what we would put on the ballot.
So this was not a hearing.
This was a meeting.
This was a meeting.
What happens at a hearing that didn't happen at a meeting?
It's a different amount of notice in the, for the newspaper.
Legal notice.
And it would have the action item. We don't have ballot language and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Vicki had her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, Vicki.
Yeah.
Or if it isn't quite ready, then you'd have a continuation to do that, yes.
So does that mean that everybody here that has already had their say needs to come again? And you need to listen to
We have this, we'll consider this as part of the public conversation, public record. Because it's recorded on MCAT. It's recorded on this machine. So, and there are some folks that have sent us emails. Those count too as public comment towards it.
Right.
Then it does need to be ready for ballot language in August at the latest. So I think it's around August 10th or something to go forward if that's the way we go. And you guys did just right, because I brought 2 pens. The first one quit right away and the other one ran out too. So now I still got everybody's name down except John Ottinger. I couldn't get the OT. I got John and I ran out of ink. All right, well, thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you.